So one of the things that came out of our regional operating committee meeting was there was a little bit of a learning curve for some folks in understanding media and communications and how to leverage, for instance, social media to build their chapter, connect with people, engage, all that. So what we were asked to do at the Rock was to give people more resources and kind of teach them some of the tips and tricks that other chapters use in order to do some of this. And so I figured the best thing to do, at least initially, is to get together kind of webinar type format and describe some of the things that we talked about at the Rock. And Chris mentioned it earlier, but I think this might turn into almost even a little mini series where we're not going to be able to capture everything in this one session. So it's likely going to be turned into a couple of different mini sessions. But as we go through this, I ask that ask questions, try to keep them brief so we can just stay within the hour. But you can always send me an email later or connect with me, and we can discuss individually your needs and anything you might have questions on. So I just wanted to start with this because this I think is really important to highlight. These are the three pillars that ASSP has for what we do. Essentially, we provide quality education, we build lasting relationships, and standards and advocacy is the other third pillar. So that middle one there, building lasting relationships, that's really kind of one of the key things that chapters are designed to do. And that's where the communications aspect really comes in, because in order to build those lasting relationships, we have to communicate with those folks. We have to engage with them. We have to get them to our meetings. We have to network with them. We have to do all the things to build, our relationships. So as one of the pillars of the ASSP mission, really kind of resides on this communication. Oops, sorry, skipped it. So, and then again, just the mission as community leaders, and this is coming straight from ASSP, is ASSP and its volunteer member community leaders connect great resources and great people to help members grow professionally through education, network, and leadership opportunities. So the key word there obviously is connection. And that's what we're talking about through communicating with folks. And the cornerstone of this connection is our means of engagement through that communication. So the thing is, we have infrequent and small windows of connection to capitalize on. Sometimes it's only once a month. For some people, maybe only once a quarter. So our methods, timing, and content is what really sets us apart to try to be able to, do everything we can to better communicate with our membership base and beyond. So the three dimensions that I'm going to talk about today, it's kind of broken up into three main parts. So the first is going to be the setup. So setting up our social media, setting up our means of communication, the content itself. So we'll go into some of the different content that we want to try to push, some of the different content that we want to try to focus on, and then the engagement aspect of connecting with the community. So by the end, we'll have learned some key tips to help build our chapter social media presence and engage with other health and safety professionals, not necessarily just ASSP people. And then through this, we're looking to grow our chapter, build relationships, enhance our brand awareness, which is important, address differing desires to meet the customer where they are, and then building a following. Really, that's it might sound silly and it might sound very Gen Z, but what we're trying to do is build a following so we can help build our brand, sell our product, land sponsorships, connect with other industry leaders and influencers, all the things that we want to do to create and that supportive community that really ASSP is all about. Yeah, so let me continue on here. Cool. So let's first talk about the setup aspect. So there are different platforms out there. Everybody is aware of what they are. We'll see different groups of people primarily use one platform over the other. There's a lot of research behind this. And, people aren't surprised to know that the majority of the platforms, the people that are using these are under age 34. But increasingly, these groups are shifting their time spent from one to another. So there was a Pew Research in 2021 that over 72% of US adults are using some form of social media. So that's a ton of people. YouTube and Facebook are the most widely used platforms, and its user base, kind of broadly represents the population as a whole. So that's something to consider. And then, smaller shares of Americans are using the platforms like Twitter, Pinterest, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And that same research that was done provides some numbers around the percentage of U.S. adults in each demographic and where they saw what platform was being used. And I actually have that link here on this slide if you wanted to go and check that out. It's very detailed, but it just kind of gives you a little bit of an insight as to what people are using and where they're using it. So with that being said, what I want to do today is just have folks focus their attention on just one or two platforms for your chapter. And I would advise on posting only to LinkedIn and Instagram, and I'll talk about why in a minute. But there's so many platforms out there, and it can get very overwhelming and time consuming for a volunteer leader to put forth this kind of effort to post to all of these. So it's really just not attainable for the majority of folks. And you can quickly turn this into a multi-hour a week thing, which is what we don't want to do. And most people just don't have time. So think about your target market, think about the platform where you want to reach your audience the most. And in most cases, it might be helpful just to go directly to the source. So go ahead and ask your chapter members, what are they interested in? Where do they want to see, all of your content? I did one with the North Carolina chapter recently, just on LinkedIn, and the overwhelming response was, I would rather see your content on LinkedIn rather than email or any of the other ones. So the general comment was, I don't want another email. That's just not something that I'm interested in because I get too many already. So I would rather have it come up organically in my LinkedIn feed to see you there. And we're going to talk about some of the importance of that. And I'm going to share these slides later. So you have all this and all the links to everything. This real quick, I just wanted to share this. So, we kind of need to sort through how and where people are spending their time. So there was an article that finds, 47.6% of the time we spend on social media is to stay in touch with family and friends. And that's, essentially why social media was created, right? But further down the list, you see that 38.6 is to fill spare time. 34.8 is to read news stories, 30.9 is finding content. And that's kind of where we spend our time in, the filling spare time, the finding content. That's kind of where we are. We're not necessarily in that friends and family category, but we are in the finding content, whether it's professional or otherwise, realm. So again, just the purpose here is to understand that to create engagement with our members and potential members is to meet them where they are. And we want to just get insights into where they are to cater to all those potential needs. One of the other things is to make it easy to find. So when I kind of started down this path for the region, what I did was I went out to all of the chapters in the region and I went to their websites and I went to the footer or the header, depending on which theme you had. And I clicked on, Facebook, for instance. So the little icon that's on your chapter website that links to Facebook. And unfortunately, a lot of chapters out there have links to either something broken or to society or some other random page somewhere. So if I was just for example, low country chapter member and I wanted to go on your Twitter and see what you guys are talking about, that might be difficult to do. And then I have to go out to Twitter myself and then go search for it. So trying to make it easy for our users to find is really important. And we're going to talk a little bit more about how to do that exactly. But I just wanted to make the point here that making it easy to find is almost the first step in our journey here. So this is kind of a good one example, I guess, of what I did with the region account. So at the top of our website, I updated the icons up here. I made them all one color, and then I increased the size. So it's something I didn't realize I could do before, but now that I do, I really like it. So, and you may recall that years ago, they decided to change the WordPress themes, and you were essentially given two options for generalized themes. One is the one you see here for the region that kind of has everything in one column in the middle of the page with a background. And then the other you'll see on the next page. But the good thing is about this theme is, you know, the ability to have the social media icons at the top. So it's really the first thing you see, so people can, you know, not have any doubt or trouble finding where you are. So again, this is another example. So this is kind of the other theme that I was talking about for WordPress. And at the very bottom, you see the social media icons. They're very small. They're kind of hard to find. They kind of blend in with the sponsors. So, you know, just something to consider as a user. The end user experience of where do I go to find you? You know, this may be a little difficult. So again, this is the North Carolina chapter. So this is the one that I did. So again, at the bottom, I matched the social media icons to what we see on the region site. So it's still not perfect because it is, you know, it's just not the best. But working within this theme, I tried to, you know, make it a little bit bigger, spice it up a little bit, so people, you know, knew exactly where to go to. And at the top in the scrolling header here, you'll see that there's a graphic that says "Stay connected." So it's really, you know, as people are coming to our page and in that slideshow is scrolling, people will see, hey, these people must be on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and Twitter. So at least that's their initial prompt to say, you know, I spend my time on LinkedIn. I'm going to go see what these guys are talking about. So moving to handles and hashtags. So there's a couple of you know, tricks and tips here. When for those of you who don't have social media accounts on these different networks, here are a couple of things that you really should consider as your marching orders. So the first is to start with ASSP. So try not to have something like Hawaii ASSP or SC chapter of ASSP. Try to always start with ASSP and then you know, your chapter descriptor after. So for instance, ASSP Hawaii or ASSP SC, something like that. Keep everything short. Try to only use acronyms and don't use the word chapter in it. So for instance, instead of saying ASSP North Carolina chapter, that's very long and, you know, it might be hard to find. Just do ASSP NC. Keep it short. Don't use characters. So don't use underscores or dashes. This might be difficult because obviously handles are taken sometimes, but you know, try to do your best to finagle around that and not use characters. And then the last point here about hashtags. So if you do use hashtags as part of your general social media, you know, what you put in your content, try to have the hashtag, the one that you use most often, the same as your handle. So if your handle in this case is ASSP GTC for Greater Tidewater chapter, have it your hashtag be hashtag ASSP GTC. So, and then same thing for ASSP Region 3. Here's a couple of, so going from the left to the right, these are the top 40 hashtag followings on LinkedIn. So as you can see, there are 67 million people that follow the hashtag India on LinkedIn. And some of the ones that, might be relevant for us is hashtag human resources, management, careers, sustainability, health. So why do you need to know this? Well, essentially, whatever your topic you're talking about in your post, if you are doing something related to sustainability, it's always a good idea to do hashtag sustainability at the end of your post. So that the potential to reach 13.3 million people with that post is there, for those who follow that hashtag. So it just increases your visibility, increases your potential for engagement from not only chapter members and people who follow you, but people beyond within the network. So moving on to LinkedIn, this is an important point because I've talked with many folks about the difference between a LinkedIn group and a LinkedIn company. So they're very different in what they do and how they do it. So a group is what you would typically think of like a Facebook group. So it's really only a place for discussions, and it's usually private, so something you actually needed to be invited to by somebody within the group. It's typically hard to find. So like if you go out to LinkedIn and you type in ASSP XYZ chapter and they're a group and not a company, it's more likely than not going to come up. So that's a problem for people who are trying to look for you and your content on LinkedIn. It's going to be hard to find. The other thing is you can't interact with people outside of the group. So that's a big problem. So if they're not in your group, you can't tag them, you can't interact with them, you can't, comment back and forth. And then the last issue with it is it's a static list of posts. So there's really no kind of, showcase type atmosphere that you can have within the group. It's really only meant for discussions. And if that's what you want as a group, that might be fine. But, just consider the fact that if you're trying to create engagement, if you're trying to have, LinkedIn be the other kind of chapter website, then a group probably isn't the venue for that. Now the difference is companies. So companies on LinkedIn is the nomenclature that they use, and the companies is really, it's more of a kind of website type atmosphere. It's public in nature. It's a great way to showcase, your brand, your chapter, your people, your content, all that. You have the ability to add in jobs, newsletters. It's very clean, clear, and professional looking. And you can also do cool things like list members and the leadership team. So all things you can't do with the group. But most importantly, the companies in LinkedIn, it's public versus groups being private. So that's really the takeaway from this slide. And this is an example of what a company page looks like. So I'm in, editing mode as an administrator, but really this is what it looks like, essentially for members too. So you come here and it's kind of a nice landing page. It's got your header. It's got the, all the graphical interface of what you would consider going to a LinkedIn company page. So that's that. And please, for all on the call, feel free to, just come off mute and ask me a question. Just interrupt as you have them. I want this to be an engaging conversation. So if you have any questions, feel free.
Bryce, there's a couple of chats on there that
Okay,
I have the same question as Jennifer. Is it possible to transition from a group to a company, or do you have to delete your group and start all over as a company?
Yeah, well, you don't have to necessarily delete your group. It's not really a delete thing. So for those that I've worked with that have groups, I just create a company page, and you can kind of just not use the group anymore. Really, you don't have to delete it per se, but you might consider just adding a company and just not posting to the group anymore. Does that make sense? Because it's
Yes.
not really a transition type of action. It's really just to create a company. So I'm going to send everybody the slides. In the slides here, and specifically on this one, you'll see at the top right, I have a little icon for with the little computer with the settings. So that just means that there's something in the notes section that is your prompt to go and look. There's either links or there's how-to guides or whatever. So in there is actually a link on how to create a company page. And then on the next slide, there's a bunch more information about logos, banners, information about headlines, stuff like that.
I've got a quick question. This is Abby.
Hey, Abby.
Hello. So what we had done was make a page, like if we were a person making a page, basically to achieve the same goal, and instead of having the group, so that way we could actually interact with members. What is the advantage of having, like, what's the difference between a company page versus like what we've done? What would be the benefit? I mean, obviously, I don't know if it would be worth us switching over since we've already made that and have like a ton of connections on, what we've already established, but I didn't know if there was a plus over the other.
So you created like a profile, like a person, but acting as the chapter. Is that right? Is that how I understand?
Right. Yeah, that's how it had always been they had both for the Southwest chapter. It was like a group page, and then this page that was like established as a person but titled, Southwest chapter ASSP. So we did the same thing for the region, to move away from the group because of those issues you listed.
Right.
But I don't know what all we'd be missing out on if we don't move over to a company, other than just the layout of the page.
Yeah, well, some of the things that I talked about, the capabilities of the company page offer you things like to be able to post jobs, to be able to have newsletters. I mean, you technically could do that as an individual on LinkedIn. I mean, I know you can. It's a good question. I think I explored this when I was creating the company page for North Carolina, but I couldn't remember exactly why. But I think the general comment to that is, the company pages are set up really specifically for this intention. Yeah, so we can talk about it more after, but I would say generally speaking, the advice would be to create a company page over a personal page. It also helps so you can be able to add people as administrators. So for succession planning and access within your executive committee, that's another aspect to this that you might want to consider that makes it a little bit easier on the company page rather than a personal one. So yeah, we can talk after too, Abby, and we can go through it a little bit more.
And something I've seen with making personal pages versus the company page is that you can't transfer admins or have multiple admins.
Yeah, that makes it a little bit more challenging, for sure.
Usually, this is how I've got around it. Just in the past, using the chapter pages, we just swap the password, and so multiple people just log in.
Right.
So
Yeah.
not as defined as that, but at least
Yeah, if you've already built a following with that, I would just keep it. I mean, there might not be any reason to really change it over, but but again, the company page, the company setup on LinkedIn is really intended for this purpose. So, just for everybody else who might not have one yet, my advice would be to just create a company versus a personal. Here's the other kind of cool thing that you can do too with company pages. So what you have available to you is what's called credits. So if I go back in the last slide here, this is me in administrator mode. So on the right hand side here, it says grow your followers. So what you can do is as the executive committee, you have essentially 250 credits, and it might be 100 for some, I'm not sure, but you have 250 credits. So basically you can go out and invite 250 people per month to come and like your page. So if you have, let's just say 10 EC members, that's possibly 2,500 follower potential per month that you can gain of people coming to your page just by going through, identifying those in your chapter or people that might be interested in your content and inviting them to your page. Very simple. But that's another benefit of having a company page versus a personal one, is you can't do that with a personal one, but you can with a company. So you can go out and actively engage people to come and like, your page. Real quick, I want to talk about the use of Instagram. I don't want to spend a ton of time here, but I do want to brief about it. So I mentioned before that I would talk a bit about why I thought it was a good idea. The what is, it's a much more visual platform. It's got cool graphical representation of your communications, and there's a lot you can do with it. You can have the same content as what you have posted on LinkedIn, or you can have it a little bit differently. I'm going to show you an example of that in the next slide. The only kind of downside, I guess, is you might not have as many active participants from our target market. So our target market is kind of a little bit more geared toward LinkedIn or something professional, whereas Instagram's a little bit more personal feel. So that would be maybe the only downside. But some of the benefits is you can actually post to Facebook and Twitter from a single Instagram post. And there's a link on how to do that in the notes here. But just posting to LinkedIn, so that's one action, and then posting to Instagram, you are able to reach both Instagram followers, Facebook, and Twitter from a single action. So that kind of is a huge benefit of not having to post to Instagram, post to LinkedIn, post to Facebook, and then post to Twitter. So that's a lot of work. So just focusing your efforts on 2 accounts can really essentially reach 4 networks. So that's big for us. It is a showcase kind of atmosphere. It's very clean and clear. You can also easily connect with sponsors and run different campaigns. So that's kind of nice for sponsors that want to see you have a big following and be able to promote yourself as saying, give us money and sponsor the chapter, and you'll be able to reach our followers. And there's lots of different things you can do with it: reels, stories, highlights, etc. So there's a lot of capabilities of Instagram. So here's just a quick example that I posted recently on the Regions account. So on the left side, you'll see the Instagram post. So it's kind of graphical, very simple in nature. And then on the right side is the LinkedIn. So a little bit more detailed, but it's just kind of 2 versions of what you're looking at here in terms of what I would consider, something that I would want to put on Instagram versus maybe something on LinkedIn. All right, so now we'll move to content. And sorry that my screen's here. I won't be able to monitor the chat that well, but I will toggle to it every once in a while. But again, if you just have questions, come off mute and we can talk. So real quick, I wanted to talk about the different options out there for us. So, from a creative design standpoint, so all the things that, you'll see like on this page. So both of these were created by me in Canva. That is my preferred graphic design software. But you can also use something like PowerPoint or Adobe Express. So most of these are going to be paid services, but again, my preference is Canva just because it's easy to use and is fairly cheap, $12.99 a month. For a social media manager, so essentially being able to take your creative designs and then post them on a scheduled basis or automatically through some service, there's Buffer or there's Hootsuite. I use Buffer for both the North Carolina chapter and the region, so it's preferable to me, and it's a little bit cheaper than Hootsuite. But I really only generally use that because it is cheaper. I would kind of prefer Hootsuite just because I think it's a better product, but it's much more expensive, about $49 a month, I think it is. We all know the virtual meetings, Zoom, Microsoft Teams. They're both have a cost associated to them, but there's that. And then there's video editing software for any of those who do use videos for their content. I use iMovie for all the things that I do for North Carolina, but Camtasia is a fantastic video editing service, but it's very expensive. Same with Final Cut Pro. That's another Mac product. And then, the other Adobe product, Premiere Express is what it's called, is another good service, but that is also quite expensive at least for most chapters.
Hey, Bryce,
Yes.
what is a Hootsuite again? I'm sorry. Like, what does that do? The social media manager?
Yeah. So basically, Hootsuite is a online software that you can connect all your social media accounts to. And what you can do is you can upload a creative design and a post, and you can set it to a schedule, and then Hootsuite will automatically post that to all your different networks. So it's kind of a way to manage all your different social media content related means. Like what you could do is you could set all your content to be posted for the whole month of November and just let it run on the schedule, and Hootsuite does that for you. So, because the networks out there don't allow you to set things to a schedule. So you really need a third party to do that for you.
Thank you.
Make sense?
Bryce, does any of the ASSP software, the event soliloquy, higher logic, does any of that have the ability to automatically share to social media?
So Magnet Mail, which is societies to do the newsletters and whatnot and all the different communications, that does. So you can automatically post to the different social media networks. I haven't had good experience with it. For some reason, every time it goes to post, it breaks, or it gives me some error or something. I don't really know why, but I ended up just getting fed up with it, and I just don't even bother with it. So it's unfortunate, but I really just haven't spent the time to figure out why it's going on. Because I just said I'm gonna use Buffer and move on. But and then Event Expresso in to manage the website. To my knowledge, it doesn't have anything like that. That's really just for setting the events on our website. I'm going to go through a couple of these kind of quick, just because I don't want us to be able to get through everything. But just a couple notes about the chapter website. So, chapter website obviously is our preferred method of getting our information out there. The website, it allows us to have the entire organization consistent and well branded. It's very professional looking. We also have the ability to optimize things in terms of analytics, like in Google search, that you can't really do with some of the social media networks. You can get better insights into visitors and optimize according to it, stuff like that. But the biggest thing that I want people to take away from solely focusing on the chapter website, because that's what I understand some chapters do, is you can't engage with people there. That's really the biggest problem, is that when you post things to your website, there's not really any place for folks to comment. You can't comment back to them. So there's no real means of engagement. It's very static. And that's, I think, part of the reason why a lot of members would prefer to get some of the content elsewhere, rather than organically going out to your chapter website to figure out what you guys are doing. So again, I mean, it's fine as a showcase place, and it's great, and we should continue to do everything we can with the website, but that level of engagement just isn't there, and that's kind of a problem. Timing. So timing in terms of content, the most important thing is consistently. It's our biggest key to success, and by doing so, we're really ensuring that our audience will keep following you. If you post too infrequently, you're going to lose their attention, and they're going to fall off the algorithm, which is important. And like I've seen a couple of chapters where their last tweet was back in 2017. So listen, if you don't want to keep it up anymore, that's fine. But we have to at least try to stay on some sort of consistency posting. While we're playing to comments is really the key to earning their trust and building that bond between your team and the community. So, and the algorithm it's really set up so on most of these social media accounts, it's kind of all the same. But the more you post, the more you are likely to receive a reaction. The more reactions you get, the more the network will think that your content is worth people's time, and people are interested in it. So it's going to push more of your content to that user's feed. So the more consistent we are, the more we're likely to receive reaction. The more reactions we get, the more likely it is that people are going to see our stuff, and in the algorithms are going to push their feed. So again, consistency is really the most important thing here. Again, I understand there are limitations in this. We are all volunteer leaders. This is not our full-time gig. We're doing this with the spare hours we have in our week. So there's going to be limitations there, but there's definitely ways around that. There's ways to minimize the impact on our communications teams to make sure it's not a significant burden. And we're going to talk a little bit about some of that stuff. Time of day, I've heard from folks, that's a really hard one to really figure out. It really kind of depends, but it's really just about when your people are online. So, it could be the best time to post is at 8 a.m. in the morning, or it could be at 7 o'clock at night. It's really a hit or miss. You can go into the social media networks, review the analytics, and see when people are active online and engaged with you. You can also do the same thing in magnet mail of when people are opening up your emails, stuff like that. But time of day, you kind of have to play with a little bit. And then the last thing is posted content types. So, there are a bunch of different posted content types. Like you could just do text, you could just do pictures, you could just do videos, which most people aren't going to do. But there's all different types of content out there. And what you do kind of sets your brand a little bit with your chapter. So like this is a good example, the North Carolina chapter, we're kind of mainly graphical in nature. So we're only trying to post graphics. Whereas other people like Justin Welsh, you see on the right, they're strictly text. So their whole shtick is just posting, reposting tweets to their Instagram. So, that's kind of the difference there. Graphical versus more textual. Branding. So, creating a brand is something that I've tried to work on a little bit with both the region and the North Carolina chapter. What I've tried to do is I've tried to, create our own brand, stay within the standards of ASSP, but get a little personalized. So, they give us chapter branding graphics that we ask for, but it's generally not enough. So most of the quotes branded, ones I've seen are this. So, it's great. It's very professional looking. It's fine. But unfortunately, what I've found is if you have this and then, all the other chapters, they all start to look exactly the same. And there's really no, differentiation between one and the other if you're just looking at it from a logo perspective. So one of the things we did at the NC chapter was we actually went out to society and we asked them to create us something very, simple, clean, but different from the rest to kind of set us apart. And this is one of the examples of the modernization they gave us in terms of a logo. So it gives us just enough to make us look different, but what we're trying to do is strike a balance between consistency, cleanliness, but keep it unique. So unique to North Carolina, something that we can use on all of our communications that's really specific, but kind of cool looking from our perspective. So feel free to solicit help from society, or if you have any friends in graphic design, for this kind of thing, just make sure we stay within the brand guidelines for ASSP, but try to create your own brand and logo in that way. And remember, we're our own organization. Granted, we're a part of ASSP, but what we want to get from the chapters is we're kind of our own entity. We're doing our own thing, and we want to try to differentiate ourselves from ASSP a little bit, right? the things that we do in Hawaii are probably going to be different than North Carolina. So kind of our tone of voice is really the difference here, and creating that personalization from a chapter to chapter basis is really what we're trying to go for.
Hey, Bryce,
Yeah, go ahead.
a couple of things from the world of chat there. Who in society can you reach out to get a unique brand?
Mr. Wolf, do you know exactly? I don't know exactly. I know that we talked to Mark Hulskamp, but I don't remember exactly the person that helped us with those.
Yeah, Mark Hulskamp would be your first contact there, and then he would probably direct you to somebody on staff there to help you out with that. But I know Chesapeake chapter worked with them to get the Maryland flag and the crab
Yeah.
involved in their logo.
And then
And,
Abby mentioned that Canva has a free version.
Yeah, sorry. Thanks for keeping me on track, Mike. Yeah, Canva does have a free version, and that's fine. I use the paid one because it gives us a lot more ability to use some of the built-in templates, built-in graphics, built-in elements. So I prefer the paid version just because it opens up your world of potentials. And then the cost of buffer, it's free up to two accounts, and then it's $5 per channel after. And all of this will be in the PowerPoint later that you can review. So I'm not knocking Kyle Mulder, so please don't think, Kyle, if you're on the call, I don't think you are, but this is an example of just one post that I saw on LinkedIn from Kyle, that in terms of branding, in terms of engagements, this doesn't really give me a lot. And if I'm scrolling through my LinkedIn feed and I see this, I'm most likely going to move on because it's not something that's going to draw me in. Maybe I want to attend this meeting if I read it, but I'm probably not going to read it. And that's the point here. So what we want to do is try to create something a little bit more engaging. So while I'm going through my LinkedIn feed, I'm more likely to stop. So something maybe graphical in nature, something that looks like an event, something that is branded according to the chapter. So at least as a user, I know where I'm going and who I'm looking at. So try to create yourself a little bit of a showstopper, I guess you would say, in LinkedIn while people are scrolling. And in terms of branding, so this is kind of what I'm talking about. Both of these are from two very different entities. One is the region, one is the chapter. But like if you look just at the header, it's kind of hard if you look at first glance to know what the difference is. And if you get communications from society, it's the same exact thing. It just doesn't have the Region 6 or North Carolina chapter underneath. So there's really no differentiation between all three of these. If you have these in your inbox, they all kind of end up looking the same. So what we want to do is try to create some of that differentiation, create your own brand, have your own voice, be your own entity. And these are kind of a couple examples of what I'm talking about. So on the left, we have a very specific header for North Carolina that displays the newsletter for the upcoming month. And then on the right, this is the PDC for Region 6. And I know as soon as I get an email like this, I don't even have to read Region 6. I see those palm trees and I know exactly what it's for because it's well branded, right? Those palm trees being in there, I know exactly what I'm doing and why I'm there, and it's related to the PDC because they're good about making sure that those palm trees are in every single graphic to represent the PDC.
So are there palm trees in Virginia Beach?
No, I don't know what they're going to do for next year. It's going to have to be something unique, but yeah, I thought about that too when I was putting this slide together. Okay, moving on to engagement.
It'll be Mount Trashmore.
What's that?
Virginia Beach has Mount Trashmore. We can put that on there.
Cool. So we already talked a little bit about engagement, but the most important thing that I want people to take away from engagement online is to respond to comments and respond to them quickly. So don't let a comment on your post go to waste, and use it as an opportunity to engage with that person and build your network. So you'll find, and especially on a format like LinkedIn, the algorithm is set up such that one person comments, and that will show in that person's network feed. That might prompt somebody else to want to engage, either responding to that person or having an original thought of their own. And that cycle kind of continues until your audience grows and grows and grows. So for us as chapter leaders, make sure we have notifications turned on in these networks, so we get notified of when people engage with us, and we receive notifications in real time. And it's not as hard as you might think to respond to these comments. I do it while I'm getting coffee or walking the dog or on a break to the meeting. It doesn't take long. It's just a quick little reply, but it keeps the conversation going. That's the important part. And whatever you say in your post, try to elicit some, conversation sparking words. For example, if you write in a post about a recent regulatory update, at the end of it, you could put something like, quote, "How does this affect your industry? I want to hear more from you." Or what advice or comments would you, the experts out there, have in the field on the new law? So hopefully people will see this and say, I actually do have a comment. I want to engage with the post and share some of my expertise on the matter. And this is an example of one recently. So at the PDC, I posted about Tim's discussion with the panel. I had tagged all of the panelists in there. And then the first comment in there, what I did was I responded to the post with my own experience. And what I did at the end of it was I said, "Hey, Allie, who do you give credit to?" So that sparked Allie to give a response, and then she kind of passed it on. So she tagged one of her colleagues and said, "Who do you give credit to?" So it kind of continued that cycle of people coming to your post, engaging with it, and reacting. This is another great example. So Allie's post is a great example of what good content for us looks like. So we have a great use of tagging and hashtagging here. We tag the appropriate people at the right time and use great keywords like, quote, record-breaking attendance. So that's something that might be a scroll stopper for you. And when somebody sees this post, they see a lot of activity. They see a lot of people in the photo. It looks exciting. People are, back in person. They see over 50 people have liked it. So something must be good. Lots of people commenting. Looks like Allie tried to tag people in the photo there at the bottom. The only comment I would have is to maybe try to tag more of those people, even if they're not in the photo, they were at the meeting. Let's try to get them engaged with our post.
Bryce, I have a question.
Yeah.
So tagging's not the same as when you tag someone in Facebook. So how do you tag someone in LinkedIn, and like, how does it work? Do they get notification, or do other people see it?
Yeah, so if you tag them, it comes up in their notifications bar at the top. And the only differences between Facebook and all the other platforms is in order to tag them, you just have to have the @ symbol before their name.
Oh,
That's
so
it.
you have to @ to get a tag.
Yep. So, and then in this slide, sorry, back in the handles and hashtags slide a little while ago, there's a how-to guide for how to do that. It's in the notes, so you guys will have that. A couple of ideas on content. So, some of the easy things is just posting chapter stuff, newsletters, website postings, member spotlights, stuff like that. One thing that I really like is going out and finding influencers. So people within your region, people within your chapter, people within the profession itself. Find somebody that you might really enjoy their content, follow them, and then use that as content for your own chapter. Trying to spread the message. So I know Adele Abrams specifically posts really good content on government affairs type updates. A lot of what I've seen her post is really informative, but very concise. I appreciate that, and I actually have set up an alert. So whenever that she posts to LinkedIn, I get notified of that. And if it's something that I feel like is worthy for the region or the chapter, I'll repost her stuff as something that I think is really good. Same with ASSP. If they have things out there that you think your population might be interested in. Voices of chapter leadership. So again, we are all volunteer leaders, but we are leaders in a sense. If we can repost things, reshares. And I'm just going through the chat. All right, cool. And then the other thing you could do is testimonials. So, any good vibes that you get from members or others who are, doing great work, let's praise them, and praise discuss the praise that we get. Helps build and maintain our credibility and our brand. In going back to my earlier point to discuss having this not be overwhelming. So, I had mentioned that really we should probably be posting, once every other day, once every third day. And that could seem like a lot for somebody who doesn't do this often or, doesn't have a lot of time. But if you just take the last newsletter and consider the amount of people that actually clicked on your email and saw that newsletter, it's probably pretty low. But you can use all the content in that newsletter for your upcoming content on your LinkedIn or Instagram. So on the 2nd, I could repost the president's letter. On the 4th, I could do the upcoming events. On the 6th, I could do our member spotlight. So again, just from one newsletter, you can almost have a month's worth of content. And that's very easy. So on top of all the other things that we talked about, resharing, from influencers or other thought leaders, that's all great content ideas. That's easy to do. And again, so this is really the kind of last point here. What we're trying to do is we're trying to drive traffic to our website, to the things that we do and how we do them through social media. So if you go into your analytics on your website and you look at the visitors, it's going to be low. It's just the average for most all chapters. People aren't as likely to go directly to your chapter organically to look for your content. They more likely than not go to your website because they were, initiated through an email, maybe through a newsletter, or through a technical meeting, posting again through an email, or through LinkedIn. They see something on LinkedIn about an upcoming event, they click on that and it redirects you to your website. So again, what we're trying to do is we're trying to build our social media presence so we could drive traffic through social media to our website. And again, that is, where do people browse? Do they browse LinkedIn? Do they browse Instagram? Or do they just happen to browse on your website? It's probably pretty low that they do the latter, and they're more likely than not, on LinkedIn and the other platforms. So again, this is just a summary, but so that's it. That's my pitch for today. There's a lot of stuff in here, especially in the notes section. So once I send everybody this presentation, you can actually go through and you can see what I've talked about today, and then you can see some of the links that I posted in there that should be helpful for you. But like Chris had mentioned earlier in the meeting, this is probably going to be a little bit of a mini series where we talk a little bit more in detail about each one of these points. But what I wanted to try to do today was highlight everything at a very high level and give you some of the things you need to start thinking about, building your online presence and kind of how to get started. Questions?
I'll just chime in real quick and say, excellent job, Bryce.
Cool. Yeah, appreciate it, Chris. Thank you.
Yeah,
that
thank
was
you,
great,
Bryce.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, thanks, Abby.
Hey, Bryce, real quick, any don'ts
Yeah.
that you can think of?
Don'ts. I would say, one of the biggest don'ts is make sure there's some sort of consensus around your executive leadership team of what you're posting. So we wouldn't necessarily want somebody to go rogue and post whatever they want. So make sure there's at least some discussion within your EC about what it is you're posting, how you're posting it, and just to make sure we're all kind of staying on the same page. We don't want and posting random stuff. So
Perfect, thanks.
that maybe is one don't among some others.
Great job, by the way. Thank you for doing this for the
Cool.
region and the chapter leadership.
Yeah, well, thanks for everybody attending. It is the top of the hour, so I appreciate everybody coming. I'm gonna have this recording posted as well as the presentation, and I'll make sure you all get a copy of it. But in the meantime, you know, there's my email. Connect with me on LinkedIn. Send me an email if you have any questions. Give me a call if you want to. My number's on our chapter website, and you know, I'm more than happy to help anybody that needs it.
Hey, Bryce,
Yes.
you mentioned there was a media packet that was sent out maybe a year ago at
Yes.
the Rock. Can you resend that? I never got it, so it would be helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll send it to you.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right. Well, if that's it, thank you, everybody. Have a great week. And if anybody's going to Safety Connect, I'll see you there.
See you there in a few
Thank you,
minutes.
Bryce.
All right. Bye, all.
See ya.